Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And just wanted to do a video on something that it honestly, 20 years ago it would have made me mad, but now it just gives me a tickle. Estimates are in for the weekend box office, and currently they're estimating that the new Indiana Jones movie, the Dial of Dysentery, or whatever the hell it's called, is expected to have a $66 million opening weekend domestically. Now, back in the old days, that might have been impressive, but you have to remember something. They spent about $300 million making this movie. $300 million. Okay, and then you've got your marketing, which usually your marketing is roughly the same as your production budget. Okay, so probably 300 million on that. So right away we're at 600. Okay, but let's say conservatively they only spent half of the amount on marketing that they spent on production. So let's say it's between 250 and 300 million dollars to make it. Okay, let's go on the low end. Let's say 250. And okay, so another half of that, so that's 125. So that's like 250, 350, $375 million to get this film in theaters. Now, the thing to remember about movies is that the movie studio only gets half. Okay, the theaters that are showing the movie get the other half. All right, so the studio spent approximately $375 million to make a movie that the reviews are pretty much universally shit. And its opening weekend only made $60 million, which only means 30 for the studio. That's less than 10% of their outlay on their opening weekend, and everybody knows the opening weekend is always the best weekend for a movie. Very few movies very few movies does their business increase the longer it's out. Usually there is a huge drop off week 2. Okay, so, and the reviews on it honestly are exactly what I expected, because given the people who are in charge, namely Kathleen Kennedy, who got famous a few years back for wearing a t-shirt at a premiere saying, "The Force is female." And what did they do to Star Wars? They basically ignored Luke and then killed him off, ignored Han, then killed him off, and ignored Leia and killed her off. Mind you, at one point in time, all three, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford, were all still alive, and the person in charge of it, Kathleen Kennedy, decided to not put them on screen together. And then Carrie Fisher died. And now they can never be on screen together. Because they concentrated on Mary Sue Skywalker, Rey, horrible, horrible character. I mean, the actress was okay, but horrible character. Okay. Not to mention Mr., emo, all up in my feelings, Ben Solo. Ugh. Anyway. But, okay, so Kathleen Kennedy took over and effectively killed Star Wars. Between Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars is effectively dead. The only thing that's even moderately successful out of Star Wars, including the TV shows, the only thing that's even moderately successful is The Mandalorian. Andor got pretty good reviews, but nobody watched it. Okay, Book of Boba Fett was widely trashed. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series, garbage. And The Mandalorian is rapidly becoming garbage. Why? Because they've made Din Djarin not be the Mandalorian, and now they're pushing for Bo-Katan to be the Mandalorian. Once again, replacing a male character with a female character, just like they replaced Luke with Rey. And in the new Indiana Jones movie, this trend continues. All right, they introduce Indiana Jones's sidekick / goddaughter, And she is really supposed to be the star of the show. The problem is that, okay, you got a few different things that you could do there with a female character in an Indiana Jones movie. They could be the sexy, seductive ingenue, which wouldn't work because she's young and Harrison Ford is 80. Not to mention, she is not a pretty woman. Okay, she could be charismatic, but the actress just isn't. She's just not charismatic, and it's the same thing, the same problem they had with Rey, they had with her. This chick is just automatically better at everything and knows everything that Indiana Jones knows without having shown the journey to get that knowledge or to get those skills. You know, when in the first Indiana Jones movie, Indiana was like he was in his 40s. Late 30s, early 40s, whatever. But you could believe that he had been doing this forever because he was a college professor. And then, on top of that, to add insult to injury, just like they made Luke bitter and didn't want nothing to do with the Jedi anymore and didn't want to train Rey, well, they've made Indiana Jones in this new movie a professor that nobody listens to. Remember in the first movie where that girl wrote, "I love you" on her eyelids? Well, in this movie, which takes place in 1969, nobody listens to a word he says. Nobody cares about his class. Marion has divorced him. He's living in an apartment by himself, sitting in a recliner in his underwear, eating Cheetos. I mean, they've really done everything they could to completely emasculate the character and make him pathetic. And I guess that's done to try to make the new character, Helena, seem more awesome. The problem is it doesn't work. Okay, for one, audiences don't want to see their heroes get destroyed. Number two, in order for that to even come close to working, you'd have to have some great story, and the story on this is essentially garbage. There's something to do with some magical freaking device. They got to find it, and they go back in time, and it's just a convoluted, absolute garbage mess. The action scenes, supposedly, from what I heard on the reviews, they go on way too long, and they're just extremely repetitive. Which, at least in the original Indiana Jones movies, each action sequence was different. There was the tank battle, and then there was the fight on the airplane, or, it was all very, very different. And that's what made it fun. And that's the big problem, apparently, with this new movie, is it's just not fun. Plus, it's kind of pathetic to see 80-year-old Harrison Ford still trying to do stunts. But all it is, and so far, Kathleen Kennedy has been responsible for destroying Star Wars and now for destroying Indiana Jones. Okay. And I won't even get into how Marvel's done destroying their characters. But, yeah, so anyway, back to what I was talking about. Indiana Jones expected to make $60 million over its opening weekend. They're probably going to extend that to try to make the numbers look pretty, because they're going to say it's a holiday weekend, and they're going to go from, instead of Thursday night to Sunday, they're going to go Thursday night to Tuesday night because of the 4th of July holiday. So we're going to see, but it isn't going to be pretty. It's going to be a huge, huge disaster. And you know what? Couldn't happen to a nicer group of morons. I'm sorry, but I don't have any sympathy for them, because you know what? You took the things that we loved from our childhood and you destroyed them. You destroyed Star Wars. You destroyed Indiana Jones. They're destroying the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all to push this, pro-feminist. And don't even get me started on Disney. That's a whole other thing. You know what? And their movies are flopping too. And you know what? Couldn't make me happier. So anyway, I just thought that might be interesting. What are your thoughts? Leave me a message. Leave me a comment. Subscribe. Give me a like if you enjoyed my program, and I'll be in touch soon.